What if I told you, a party can promise everything people want, better jobs, more support, stronger middle-class policies, and still lose their trust? Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly what's happening. Because here's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to admit. People don't walk away from policies, they walk away from attitudes. Lately, you've probably heard the same narrative again and again, that certain public figures suddenly switched sides, like they woke up one day as completely different people. But that's not reality. People don't just flip overnight. They drift, slowly, when they feel unheard, dismissed, or pushed out. That's how modern politics works now. One side rises, pushes its ideas aggressively, and before you know it, the pressure creates backlash. People don't always run toward the other side. Sometimes, they're just running away. And this is exactly where things get interesting. Bill Maher didn't just hint at this, he went all in. On his show, he unleashed a sharp, unfiltered criticism of what he sees as a growing problem, a culture that's less about conversation, and more about confrontation. Because politics today isn't just divided, it's emotionally charged to the point where disagreement feels like betrayal. As Barack Obama once warned, we've reached a stage where people assume the worst in anyone who doesn't agree with them completely. And instead of persuading, people are scolding. Instead of listening, they're labeling. Instead of debating, they're shouting. Maher's argument is simple and uncomfortable. This approach doesn't win people over. It pushes them away. Fast. Think about it. If every conversation turns into a lecture, if every disagreement turns into an attack, how long before people just stop listening altogether? What frustrates him even more is what he sees as a refusal to even consider other perspectives. Not debate them. Not challenge them. Just shut them down. And in his view, that's not strength, that's weakness disguised as certainty. Because when a movement stops questioning itself, it stops growing. And here's the part most people miss. This isn't really damaging opponents as much as it's damaging the movement itself. It chips away at credibility. It shrinks influence. And worst of all, it drives away the exact people needed to win. He also points out something a lot of people quietly notice but rarely say out loud. The loudest voices online don't always represent the majority, but they shape the image everyone sees. And that image? For many people, it feels intense, aggressive, even unwelcoming. So while mainstream politicians may sound reasonable and balanced, it's often the extreme voices dominating social media that leave a lasting impression, and not always a good one. You don't have to agree with everything Maher says to see the bigger picture here. This isn't just about left versus right. It's about how any movement can lose its connection with people, not because of what it believes, but because of how it behaves. When a space stops feeling open, people stop entering it. When disagreement isn't tolerated, curiosity disappears. And when the loudest voices drown out everyone else, the entire message starts to change. That's the real shift happening, not overnight transformations, not dramatic betrayals, just a slow, steady push that makes people step back, and eventually walk away. What if the real problem in politics isn't disagreement, but the complete disappearance of respect? Because here's something most people don't talk about. Everyone demands understanding, but almost no one is willing to give it first. Bill Maher makes a blunt point. If you expect patience, tolerance, and open-mindedness from others, you have to offer the same in return. You can't demand grace while giving none. And that's exactly where things start to fall apart. Even Barack Obama once reminded people that fellow citizens deserve the same level of respect we hope to receive ourselves. Sounds simple, but in today's political climate, it feels almost impossible. Let's be real, certain political figures drive people crazy. Emotions run high, frustration builds up, and before you know it, conversations turn into clashes. But Maher's argument is that reacting with constant anger and hostility only makes things worse. In his view, there's a growing imbalance. One side is expected to stay calm, stay tolerant, and stay open, while the response they get is often harsh, dismissive, and sometimes outright hostile. Whether you fully agree or not, his core message is about consistency. If a movement claims to stand for inclusion, openness, and free expression, then shutting down disagreement completely goes against those very values. And that contradiction is where credibility starts to crack. Maher believes this isn't just about strategy, it's about identity. When actions don't match principles, people notice. And once that trust starts slipping, it's very hard to win back. At the same time, he points out something politically uncomfortable. While Democrats have focused on policies aimed at helping working-class people, Republicans have been winning the perception battle, presenting themselves as the voice of everyday voters. Not necessarily because of policy details, but because of how the other side is perceived. And perception in politics? It's everything. Maher suggests that many voters aren't just reacting to policies, they're reacting to a feeling. A sense that certain cultural debates, constant online outrage, and highly charged issues have become overwhelming. Whether those concerns are fully accurate or not doesn't matter as much as the fact that they resonate. Because once people feel disconnected, they start pulling away. And that brings us to a bigger pattern. The idea that public figures suddenly switch sides is often exaggerated. People don't just wake up and change overnight. More often, they feel pushed out over time. That slow shift creates the illusion of sudden change, but in reality, it's a gradual reaction. You've seen this with names like Elon Musk and Joe Rogan, who've openly distanced themselves from certain political directions. Even rumors about Maher himself stepping away have circulated, not because he actually did, but because the perception alone shows how much the landscape has shifted. And that shift is being driven by more than just policy.